Welcome to the Kolbecast, episode 159. Thank you for joining us. Following last week's episode featuring Kolbe's commencement ceremony speeches, our Kolbe hosts, Bonnie, Hope, Jordan, and myself, sit down for our first in-person recording of the Kolbecast in Atlanta, Georgia. We were able to catch up and discuss what happens during a Kolbe commencement ceremony, both during the event and behind the scenes before and after, and to look forward to what's coming up in Kolbe Academy. We hope that you'll enjoy the show.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie, Kolbe homeschooling mom of 4 lads and lasses, liturgical musician, popcorn, and podcast fanatic.
And this is Stephen, homeschooling father of 5 and director of development for Kolbe Academy.
And I'm Jordan. As a product of homeschooling, I'm proud to teach Greek and Latin for Kolbe online and serve as the alumni and public relations director.
All right, well, I'm used to seeing Stephen and Jordan and whoever else is in the conversation with us for these podcast recordings. But today they are not just Brady Bunch squares on a Zoom call. They are actual people sitting in the same room as I am. It's great to be here in person. We're recording a podcast together. Jordan, Stephen, and my sister Hope, who is one of our Kolbecast co-hosts for the first 50-ish episodes. Hi, guys. It's good to see you all.
Bonnie, it's nice to see you.
Hey, Jordan. Good to see you.
Hi. What do we think? We've been here in Atlanta for graduation for the class of 2023. It's been amazing to meet people we have been working with and in class with. It's been a really great experience. What do y'all think?
It's always exceptional to get everybody together here. This is only my second time attending the Atlanta event, but we're all virtual all the time, so it's just such a great experience to actually be able to see the students, talk to the parents, and all be in the same place, have a meal together too, after graduation. Pretty fun.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. The listeners might be able to hear the students behind us. It's a full house where we're recording. The students are getting ready to go. It's the French, I guess, class, right? Whoever could make it, they're flying to France. Is it tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes. So they're almost on their way out. So a lot of excitement around here, tons of celebration, tons of pictures, tons of food. It was a pretty awesome day.
It's been amazing to see current Kolbe graduation. I'm a 2011 alumna, and I got to go to graduation live my year that I was a senior. It was held in Napa at the Kolbe Day School, and there were 7 high school graduates and 3 8th grade graduates. And so seeing how much it's grown, getting to see people who I had worked with when I was a student and getting to come back and see them again. And then it's been wonderful to come and celebrate my nephew and all the other class of 2023 graduates and see how vibrant Kolbe is currently.
Yeah. We had, 30 graduates come to Atlanta and 20 more zoomed in for the virtual component of that. It's neat to see everybody come together, and we ended up with a class of about 150 seniors in the class.
I think that's what it was. Yeah,
that's what Everett told me.
Yeah, it's great.
Really it's great that so many made it here, because it is, for most, it's some kind of an investment to get to Atlanta, but I really think it's worth it for all of us. So. I mean, it was the first time that some of us in this room had met in person, and I've talked about it on other podcasts, that feeling where it's almost like now we see in part and then we'll see in whole when we get to heaven. There is something to that, and the fact that it's all geared around this event makes it all the more so. And so, really special time. If any of the listeners can get out here for one of these, you should do it.
It was wonderful to meet Bonnie in person. I've heard so much about her.
See what I deal with.
Now, did it start here in Atlanta because Megan Langle, our chief academic officer, is here, and it used to be at Georgia Tech's?
Yeah, we did that 1 or 2 years at the Catholic Center at Georgia Tech. And then we moved to the current location where we did it last year and this year. But before that, I mean, it was more like Hope's experience, I guess, going all the way out to Napa. But we're so spread out, and Atlanta's a lot easier to get to than Napa for most people. So we moved it here, and that was pretty recent, actually.
Well, it's beautiful here in Atlanta,
It
and
is.
yeah, I think the largest airport in the world here in Atlanta as well.
Yeah.
So
And everything has been so well coordinated with the space where the graduation, and so there was baccalaureate mass last night and then graduation this morning, and we're recording the podcast in the afternoon, and each event on the itinerary has been so well coordinated, and just seeing Kolbe faculty, staff, and families collaborate. Like, we had this beautiful space for commencement this morning, and then while the graduates were taking pictures outside, the families flipped the space around from like an auditorium arrangement to a luncheon arrangement with tables and chairs, and seeing everybody collaborate and participate that way was beautiful to see.
It's been neat to meet you guys and other folks that I interact with through Teams and video calls, and it so much is, it just seems very natural to step from that format into this in-person one, and I've been thinking a bit about the remote nature of our interactions most of the time, the work that we do together, and the schoolwork, the classroom work that's conducted. That goes hand in hand with coming together to be in-person events and getting to know each other in that respect, in like 3D, as Hope was saying. But it seems like I was trying to think how I wanted to put this earlier, that it is so important. I have found such value. Our family has gotten so much out of the Kolbe experience and what Kolbe is able to offer to our family, that it is worth it to do the remote study, the remote work. There's also a very important piece of being able to be together in person. I like how they go together.
Yeah, and some of it is, there were quite a few students there that their older siblings were also in attendance, and there were people that I had gone to their graduations 2 and 4 years ago, and that was pretty cool, because it was almost like, we usually, the first few times I came to these, it was the first time I've seen my students, but now I'm seeing them and hearing they're in grad school and what they're up to. All of that should just grow over these years. I think it'll be awesome. We'll probably still be around when the children or the children of the students are coming here.
You should have like a homecoming event along with graduation for all the alumni.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It's a fun idea. Yeah. It's neat to see some of our podcast guests who have been on some of our episodes before.
Mm-hmm.
We will look up some of those and put them in our show notes for this, so that we can reminisce that way. It's great to check in with them and hear about what they've been up to.
Yeah, Don Prudlo, he's been on multiple times. I always love getting together with him, and so it was great. His son was one of the speakers today, which was really good. And the whole event was good with the lineup that we had. Dr. Hassler speaking, and I've heard so much about Dr. Hassler. Is one of the favorite students at Kolbe, and almost all my students also have a class with him. So I hear about him, and we only interact on Teams once in a while, but it was awesome to just immediately, it was like we knew each other. We just had a long conversation, and it was great.
We're staying in the same hotel with Dr. Hassler, and my nephews were so excited they wanted to get him to play video games with them. I'm like, I love that your philosophy professor is like the guy you want to play video games with at graduation.
Well, I heard multiple compliments about his shoes, because he's wearing those kind of German-looking leather sandals with, yesterday he had a pair of Kolbe socks on. So that was he was sporting his merch.
I missed that.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised though. Yeah.
it's very good.
It was fun seeing there was a lot of Kolbe swag around. So I learned this term yesterday. It's called a step and repeat. It's one of the backgrounds that has like a logo printed across it, and you see them at film premieres or various fundraiser events. And so Kolbe had a step and repeat today, that they had the graduates come forward, receive their diploma, shake hands with the various people, and then stand for professional pictures, and all very well coordinated.
Yeah, film crew was there also, which I think we will make it for. Well, I haven't heard from anybody. It just happened hours ago, but there was an invitation to tune in and see it live, and so I wonder what that looked like. Any feedback from anybody?
No,
I think we had some family watching the live stream of the ceremony, so they were excited to be able to participate that way.
Yeah.
I was told that it's going to be available, the recording at least, so if people would, because some of the families had relatives out in California and Hawaii, and it was a little early for them at 6 and 4 or so, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, we started at 9:30 in the morning with the ceremony, so yeah, 6:30 California time. A lot of troopers in the Kolbe family, people that came out and adjusted to the time change in one night.
And then we had international students on the Zoom or on the virtual graduation, didn't we?
Yeah. I forget where they mentioned, but yeah, there were some.
Yep. Ecuador,
In the Philippines.
Philippines.
Amazing.
That's just to like to think about that. The difference between in Kolbe, we're largely a virtual community. I mean, whether it's us working and rarely getting to see each other, or all of our families who are really don't see anybody else until graduation unless you have somebody locally. It's interesting. It seems to really work. I mean, I always notice at times it's hard when you don't have that just direct personal contact, where for me, I can't look at somebody's face and see their facial, their reactions to what I'm saying, but we get a little bit of that in our Teams meetings where you can, or on Adobe Connect for students where they can see the other students for some time. But it's still, like I think Hope you were saying, it's still really nice to actually find out that people are tall or short and actually shake their hand or give them a hug. And it's really, it's some combination of that seems like it's needed to make it work.
There are always those surprises. Like you hear people and they're like, "Oh, I just it's the biggest surprise was that seeing the person and they're 6'5" or whatever."
Right.
And for the listeners' benefit, Stephen is tall and Bonnie is short. So
Right. I'm feeling very, very diminutive because I'm very short.
But like throwing it back to one of the very early Kolbecast episodes from after our reboot, we talk about the idea of mediation and there being mediators. In some ways, teachers are mediators, or secondary sources are mediators between primary sources and students. And there's a time and a place for mediation. It's a wonderful concept, but there's always that something in between. And so the technology of being able to build this community remotely, I think it is inherently mediated. You use media for it, and then there is this connection in the midst of this community, and it's very beneficial. But it's so neat to see the community with that intermediate piece removed and being able to speak face to face and have a meal together and take pictures. My nephew was taking pictures with 3 of his classmates who he's been in class with for a while, and they had their arms around each other's shoulders just like if they had been sitting in class together in a brick and mortar school.
Yeah, I talked to a mother afterwards, and she said, "Look at my daughter up there." They were on the stage in front of the what was that thing? What did you call it? The walk.
Step and repeat.
Step and repeat.
Yeah.
She was up there and surrounded by 5 or 6 other girls, just glowing, talking to them. And she said, "Look at my daughter up there." And she said, a couple years ago when we were doing this, she was saying, I have no friends. I don't have any friends. I feel isolated, and she just couldn't believe what the relationship they built over these couple years of using this form of mediation, connecting people as it is, and then removing that. I like how you describe that. Once that's removed, then you see that connection was actually organic, as much as it may not feel like it. I must have said something right. The angel.
I thought I had turned this off. Maybe.
We'll go with that. You said the right thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
An angel entered the room.
Yeah.
So I think the immediacy is a huge part of actually taking the trip and coming out to Atlanta, because there could be the question of like, oh, I don't need to fly to another state to just walk across the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I can move my tassel from the which direction to which direction?
Is it left to right?
I think that's what they were doing.
Right to
Wait,
left?
that
It's
was-
either left to right or right to left.
Well, yes, it is. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Top to bottom.
We saw some of those as well.
But like the idea of, do we really need to make this investment in the challenges of travel and the time and the expense and everything, and so it is so much more than just walking across the stage or moving your tassel whichever direction you move it, because it's turning out to be like a 3-day event for some of these participants. There was a student social last night with a waffle bar. I thought about seeing if alumni needed to do quality control on the waffle bar, but they had a swing dance lesson, and
They had a good time.
yeah.
Several of the new graduates talked to us today, recording some of their. One of the questions I asked them was, "Why was it important to come here? Why'd you make the trip?" And several of them said, to meet the people that I've been studying with or learning from or any of that, and also to have that sense of closure for this chapter, and to and that kind of tied in with some of the remarks during the commencement ceremony too, that the path to mark this moment in time and carrying this into the next phase.
Yeah, to end something well and to begin at the same time, and then you're beginning well. Also, I think with this, I have never heard somebody that's come to one of these graduations and says they wish they wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's always, I think it exceeds their expectations every time, and mine too. Every time I come, I'm so glad that I got invited and get to be a part of something like this. So yeah, I can't endorse it enough. I mean,
Definitely worth it.
Yeah, I hear from Kolbe families they want opportunities to get together with more people, and of course, like for me, I'd love to have us facilitate that, but it's always a challenge. Where are you going to have it? You've got to make that sacrifice of travel and staying at some place, and so graduation presents that opportunity, that impetus to actually say, okay, we're all going to go here. So you'd love to do it all throughout your Kolbe journey, and we'll probably try to figure out ways to do that, but we'll need some a donor facilitating that would really be nice, because there's a lot of expense with moving people around and organizing and things like that, but it's worth doing. It's just
how fulfilling would that be to be the person that helped do that?
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
What's it been like for you guys getting ready on your side? Jordan, you were the MC of the event, and Stephen, you had a lot to do as well, getting ready for just on the logistical side, like the graduation committee that's been working for a while to make this happen. It didn't just get thrown together at the last minute.
They did a remarkable job. So I didn't have to do a lot this year, which was kind of nice because I was coming down with my wife and my son, and so we just got in and tried to throw in help when we get here. But yeah, there's been a crew of people that have just for months have been making sure all the facilities are there, that everything's lined up, that and then our chief operations officer, Chris Rolls, has really he just jumps in and
he does everything, all from moving chairs to airport runs or whatever. Yeah. It's a servant.
Mm-hmm. I saw that,
yeah, you can really see the difference when he jumps in and this is his vocation, clearly, to keep things operating, because he had everything running really smoothly. But there are a lot of other people, like you said, Bridget and Josh and Megan and Mary out there, and everybody who's working to make sure it comes off. But
I'm always impressed with how hard everybody works, and I'm meeting Megan Langle, the big boss of the online academy, and she gets in there and wipes down tables and does everything. So there's all that effort. For me, I'm kind of a little bit lazier, I guess. I didn't even write the script, so they handed it to me, and I just read it. I mean, I did make the jokes the joke about where I referenced The Office, so, but pretty much, I mean, everything was just completely organized. They just handed me the script, and it was laid out perfectly. Stand up and read these words and sit back down. So that was a lot of my efforts, and then just sticking around and talking to people afterwards. But
it's funny. I've never seen The Office myself, which is crazy. But my son loves The Office, and so he was thinking, as you said, Cornell. He was thinking this line, and he was like, "Oh, Jordan!"
I think everybody was. I mean, that knows The Office. I got quite a few compliments afterwards from people who've seen that. So it's a funny clip. And how it came up for the listeners is one of the speakers today. She's going to Cornell this fall, and so whenever she's visited a few of my classes this year to connect with her old classmates and all that, and I play this little clip from The Office, and it's where he says it's Cornell, it's the highest rank in the Ivy League, and so I play that multiple times during class, just this clip. So I knew some of the students would, even if they haven't seen The Office, they would know. It would be our little inside joke, kind of, but. Yeah, so I said that when I was introducing her. Said she's going to Cornell, the highest rank in the Ivy League.
You worked a couple of jokes into rehearsal yesterday too. Some nicknames from Latin class.
Oh yeah. I would do more. It's kind of weird. Because I have to be official. I have to be official. I know there's some that would like if I wasn't being official at all, but I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to come back to Atlanta for these things if I...
Get the hook.
Yeah.
A lot of students eager to meet you in person and talk to you and tell you stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of my favorite part of the whole thing is that. I mean... And a lot of time, I mean, there was a family there with their daughter was graduating, and I had taught her older brother and her older sister, who were both here also, and I'd never met any of them. It was the first time they were able to come for the graduation. And it was just awesome. I mean, I can't tell you how much. I could probably go to almost any state in the country and stay for free now, because we have an extra room now that this guy's moving out or whatever. So.
Right?
Well, I think in addition to the older siblings, it's really good for younger siblings too. So all four of Bonnie's kids are here, and I was asking them at lunchtime, like, okay, so what do you think about in a couple of years, the next one? And then I think the youngest, it's about 5 years, and so that gives them something to look forward to, something to kind of remember as motivation on the hard days. For middle schoolers who may be facing down that 9th grade year, that is the dreaded 9th grade transition of getting used to the high school workload, having the entire experience of the celebration and the sense of accomplishment and the sense of completion of having seen graduation, I think would be something that would be really great for them as they work toward that themselves.
In meeting a few of the teachers they'll have, so now they will have that, they already have that connection when school starts, that, oh, I met you in person, and kind of scale back some of that, the unknown factor of, how is this going to go? Yeah.
Our rowdy students here are trying to make it onto the podcast. They're not.
Every hour they're closer to Paris. That's getting more and more excited.
We're going to title this episode whatever, featuring the Kolbe students, like a guest artist on a song. That's okay. I don't have my dog here, so he can't sound bomb us like in the early days of the rebooted Kolbecast when he would bark.
Yeah. He'd make his cameo. They're making their cameos.
It's really too bad Kolbe kids don't have any fun when they get together.
Right. They're enduring, aren't they? They're making the best of it. So how many of the students have you met before you came today?
It's hard to say. I would say maybe 10 that I've that I've met. Students and former students together, yeah, probably about 10 of them.
So from your interactions with them in class to now meeting them in person, have you had any that are like, I had that one very wrong, or that person seems so different, or even any of the people you work with that you've met?
I think that sometimes students feel that way about me more than I do about them, because I don't see them very much on camera, and so I kind of have an idea of what they'd be like. But students, I think, because in class it's just so different, because I'm just trying to make them laugh and joking and all that, and then in these situations it's everything, and everything's happening really fast. I'm meeting a bunch of different people really quickly, so and their parents, and so many times their parents tell me that they love listening to the class for the jokes or whatever. And I always feel a little uncomfortable because I can't remember what I've said. But I love it. They bring back memories of places I lived before, or the room that I used to teach in, and they ask about my kids, and it's like they know my family very well. So that's always nice. It's nostalgic in a way.
It's a frequent topic at our family sporadic Saturday breakfasts about what has Dr. A been up to this week, because Jordan has had one of my nephews and one of my nieces in his Latin class this past year. And so anytime like we need a laugh or are trying to get people involved in the conversation, we can be like, so what did Dr. A do this week?
Well, that was what was so fun, like today, to be able to sit down at lunch. So I'm looking for a place to sit, and then Hope said there's room here, so I'm sitting by a student and a future student, and Hope is there and Bonnie's there, and getting to know the students, and there are some like that. In that case, everybody is just like I would expect them to be, I guess. And so they have the same personalities and all of that. I wouldn't recognize a lot of the students though until they come up and I'm looking at their name tag, and so I try to not make them feel bad, but I haven't seen them very much, so.
It's a case where they know you better than them. It just takes a minute to kind of
especially students from the past. There was a girl there that I taught 3 years ago or something, and she was graduating, and with her though it was strange. She was looking at me. She and her mother were looking at me, and I could tell they were trying to figure out, is that him or not, from a distance, and all of a sudden it clicked. And it was like the sound that was happening earlier. Her name came back to me, just like that. And so sometimes that happens.
Well, it's got to be a different experience for you than for the students, because when you're a student in an online class, like all of them are hopefully paying attention to the teacher, but then you have all of them that you're probably trying to gauge engagement levels and who has questions and who's goofing off. So they have more focus, and you have more. You have a broader amount. That's not going to be right. You have a lot more to keep track of.
Yeah, and with multiple classes and all of that. So I do get an impression, but of each student, and sometimes it stands out more. I have this one student named Amelia who it really stands out to me, so I'll never forget her. She's really awesome.
So, Stephen, you have an 11th grader who came with this year, so I would be curious what his thoughts are, knowing that he's going to be.
Well, I think we might have to say that I had an 11th grader. I think my wife has disowned him since he collected all of the name things all over his suit.
He did have, 30 or 40 name tags by the end of the day?
Pretty impressive.
He was collecting everyone's name tags and sticking them all over his suit jacket, and I thought it looked pretty awesome. I guess your wife didn't agree.
I guess she didn't, but I'm looking forward to coming back when he came last year as well, so this is his second year at graduation, but this will be, we'll get to come and celebrate that next year, which will be a lot of fun. to see how many of the kids get to come along with and who has to stay back and take care of the pets.
Right.
Man, that was a big thing today because I know so many students that live on small farms or they just have chickens in their backyard and dogs and all that. And that is an instant. Anyone out there that if you want something to talk about with somebody, they have pets and they're traveling, who's watching your dogs? Who's taking they're happy to tell you for somebody.
Yes.
It's a big thing. That's high up on the list of things to take care of.
Yeah, who's taking care of your dog?
My dog is boarding at his vet, and I was working, and so our mom took him to the vet, and I think he offended her because the dog was so excited to go into the vet's office that mom was like, okay, don't miss us too much.
That's really funny.
So my wife was only able to come along because my daughter had just gotten back from college, so we had somebody with a driver's license at home, so she could watch my other three that didn't come along. But.
Yeah.
There are always these adventure stories of how people got here, who's watching what. There was somebody showed me yesterday their son was flying a crop duster and took a picture of their house from the top, which they were like, wow, look at this. And it was right then. It was a picture from them. And then someone else, I won't mention the names, but somebody had just gotten their driver's license and their father was letting them drive so that he could read on a long road trip. And next thing they know, the guy got pulled over. The police, he was speeding. The father didn't recognize it, and he only got his driver's license 3 days ago, or 3 days before this happened. And so he was let off with a warning. He didn't even have the license. It was like the little paper that you unfold, and probably the best lesson he'll get in driving for a long time.
Really, yeah.
Adds to the stress level for a beginning driver.
Those of us who flew had like the solidarity of we got up at 3:30, other people got up at 4:30, somebody had to get up at 2 to get to the airport on time.
There were a lot of folks like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everyone was still standing. They didn't have that glassy-eyed look. We had a good time. It was worth it.
Nobody passed out. That happens a lot at graduations for some reason, and everyone held it together.
Yeah. I wonder for how many of them it is officially summer break now. Mm-hmm.
I asked some of the graduates, like, so do you feel any different? Do you feel and what I mostly heard was, I think it'll set in a few days. So they were still on the high from everything, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point you make, Bonnie, because when I graduated from Kolbe, in the days when we used stone tablets and walked uphill both ways to not go to a brick and mortar school, when I graduated from Kolbe, the ceremony was in July. It was on July 15th, and that worked out pretty well because we were always like at least a few weeks behind a regular schedule. So I had not finished my 12th grade classes until the end of June, and then I had like 2 weeks before graduation. But if it had been in May, I would have still had about 6 weeks left to do. And so having it in May now, it makes sense with the online academy, having a lot more people on kind of that 9-month schedule. But yeah, we'd tell people that I was graduating in July, and we'd get funny looks.
Yeah.
We had some conversations about that actually because there was some confusion about what graduation is. And it's like, well, okay, if you attend the ceremony, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've graduated. Mm-hmm. Graduation is when you get your diploma and you've got all of your final transcript and all of that stuff. So I assume that if you, in your situation, you could have had the provisional, you could have walked onto the stage, but but then you'd have to still have to finish up.
Yeah. That's been happening around us. A lot of the big schools have had their graduation ceremonies, and then they go back to school for a few more weeks. Like, so there's the cognitive dissonance there. Like, how that would be very difficult to get back into that headspace of, okay, you got to do some more schoolwork now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. There'd be no way they could have dragged me back into high school after I graduated.
Right. Like, that's what this means, right?
My diploma.
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't hand over the diploma is what they.
My kids have had such a good time meeting their classmates that they've been they've been talking with and interacting with, but now they've gotten to meet some here in person, and I think that has really bolstered their excitement and their sense of like, this is my school, this is my community, and
well, we have so much more in terms of like branding and awareness, which from a not at all from like a secular point of view, from a very Christian point of view, I think it's really important to help people feel like this is Kolbe and to feel this sense of pride, because it's all done just to make an identity for the school, which transfers to the student. They graduate from Kolbe, which is this place, and it looks like this, and these are its symbols and all of that, which I thought that was really awesome. I mean, I was at a conference in Long Island, New York, and the Kolbe people that were there came up to me, and they were wearing Kolbe hoodies, and they had different people. They had Kolbe merchandise with them, and we connected like we're part of the family, you know. And they were really proud when we got a shout out from one of the speakers. They looked back at the booth where I was standing and like, yeah, there we go, we're Kolbe. So I think all of that's really great. So you get a lot of that at the graduation when you come.
Yeah, that was another question we were asking some of the folks who came to talk to us, like, why Kolbe? If you have so many choices and ways to accomplish this, why Kolbe? It was neat to hear their various answers. And a few of the common threads running through were the solid curriculum, the liberal arts curriculum, the faithfulness to the magisterium, and just a solid foundation that their kids come away with and carry with them. But it's neat to hear the various responses. I feel I do an injustice to them to paraphrase. I won't get it, but we'll put it all together.
You'll
so
see
people
it.
can hear it. Yeah, yeah.
So there were some new awards this year at graduation. Can you tell me about those?
So I'm relatively new here still, but they're moving away from the old different diplomas that they had. So they had the Summa and the
Magna and the Standard was what it had been. Yeah.
And they decided to kind of simplify that a little bit to, just to make things easier, but wanted to bring in the recognition for students who really kind of embraced our curriculum or really wanted to achieve things in particular areas. So, I think I'd have to see if I can get them all right. There's like the top one is the St. Maximilian Kolbe, which is kind of doing Kolbe the way the founders kind of, I think, saw that it should be done. Well, I mean, and has developed. It might not be it's intense, so it might not be the right thing for every student, but that's kind of, I think, where it's there. And then the St. Ignatius of Loyola Award is, again, kind of a broad thing, but without, I don't remember quite the differences between that and the St. Maximilian Kolbe. But yeah, we've got the St. John Paul the Great, I think, with studying a lot of languages, the St. Albert the Great for sciences, and I'm missing one, I think.
Not much.
Thomas Aquinas, I think.
So yes, St. Thomas Aquinas for the humanities, I believe.
Thomas Aquinas, how could you miss that?
I know, how embarrassing. But I think, so that there could be recognition for the excellent work that students are doing, and those are really rigorous courses, so it should be celebrated when you do that. And this, I think they had some beautiful imagery, I think, that are on those awards with Beartooth. So Beartooth Catholic put together images of the different saints in sort of a metal format. So I think that's what they all got in there. Chris Rolls, again, our COO, had been showing images that everything. So so it's.
I think that one thing that's really interesting about Kolbe with those awards, that's an outgrowth of it. It's that it's easy. A lot of places can stoop down to the lowest and make accommodations for people that need extra help or just students that aren't that intensive or whatever. But it's harder to reach up, I think, and accommodate those who really want to excel. And we try to do both at Kolbe, and I think these awards are really a reflection of that, sort of helping families where they really want their children to be challenged. be able to do so.
Yeah. So what do you guys have on tap for summer? You're writing, Jordan, you're working on your Father Reinish translation.
Yeah, Reinish is the number one focus. So I'm resisting thinking beyond that right now. I'm just like, I want to get that done, and hopefully this summer. That's the goal.
Yeah. What about you guys? Traveling?
I think after this week, traveling's mostly done, but then it's back to work, working on financial aid. We have a financial aid campaign that has to come up. We've had a new system with Kolbe for signing up this year, but one of the things that didn't get put in there is the opportunity for people to make donations as they're signing up for classes. So we've got a lot of work to do to meet the financial aid. So that's going to be some work, but also podcasts, we've got some things going on right now where we've been talking about kind of what's the future of homeschooling. So, online programs pretty established now. They know what they're doing. What does it look like for somebody who's just purely homeschooling in Kolbe? And what do those parents need? What could we be doing better as Kolbe to make sure they've got everything they need to be successful in that? And some of that might be pulling in a course here, maybe we've got some new services that we've talked about on a previous podcast with support services, maybe some of that, but maybe it's just some of the things we do where we can, give them more information about a book or about what the point of a course is. And our advisors right now are working kind of small groups of parents to bring them in kind of monthly and talk about things. So we want to build the community, and we want to get, like we're talking about here with the graduation, see what we can do to get people more connected and get them the help that they need that they can be successful. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to our conversations here more about the work you guys have been doing together, refining the vision and what the Kolbe way is, and the pillars that Kolbe is rest upon. I'm really eager to hear those thoughts that you guys have been working on and talk to more folks. Yeah,
we Stephen and I meet a couple times a week to work on these things, and it's been good. It's kind of like a discovery. I mean, a part of it is, but it's more like we're trying to articulate and see what the things really mean, the pillars of Kolbe. What does that really mean for a family, and what's most relevant? And it's fun. It's fun. It feels like a big challenge, but it's a fun one. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's really important as we're talking about being remote and getting bigger to do that sort of thing, because when everybody was in Napa and you had the founders there and everybody's in an office, it's really easy to soak up the mission. But if you're going to have people really out there working and doing Kolbe stuff, but they're only seeing other people on Teams and limited interactions, we have to make sure everybody in the organization really understands those pillars so that they can do everything in light of those. But the decisions they make will be made in light of those things. So it's essential that we do it now, but it's also a lot of fun. And it's you just see how well things were thought out really by the founders and which is a sign of the, clearly the success of Kolbe, the longevity of Kolbe is a sign that God was really had a hand in its founding and its development. And so as the caretakers of Kolbe right now have to make sure that we're maintaining that, or that we're continuing to do what God wants Kolbe to do right now. And clearly, since he gave us a direction from its very foundation, try to hold that as much as we can.
It's a maintenance. It's sort of a discovery and a maintenance of something that was already there. And Stephen and I both like to think of creating new things and all of that. And so we talked about, I was asking Stephen about this personally, why not? Would it be easier to just kind of start from scratch or whatever, and just sort of say, let's just start from here and build something new instead of digging way back into all this? But he mentioned the blessing and God's hand upon Kolbe, which I've known from the beginning, and he said something about if like investing your time, where do you look? You look to where the grass is already green. That's one way of making a decision on where am I going to invest my time? Where am I going to invest my efforts? And I definitely feel that at Kolbe. It's like if I can help, I want to help in a place that I really do feel like God has been blessing, and that's Kolbe.
I've been meaning to ask you more about your media appearances. You've been on the Relevant Radio a number of times now. You have more of those in your future?
Those come up pretty quickly. It's like, can you do this later this week or early next week? So I don't have anything scheduled right now, but I'm thinking something will come up. I did a longer interview with I think it's called Good Shepherd Radio, which is more local somewhere, but they have a podcast out there that should be out. That was a lot of fun. He was very curious about Kolbe itself. What is Kolbe? What makes it different? And he knew homeschooling really well, the guy I was talking to, but he wanted to really find out what was different about Kolbe or what we do well. And so that was a fun one. I like live radio. It's fun because that it's just there. And what happens is, I think the first time they had me on, or the first few times, they're like, okay, this guy isn't going to say anything crazy. He's not going to hesitate too long between whatever. And so if I sound okay on live radio, you're safe then. And I think that's what's happened. That's the only reason they're calling me on. They're like, he's not going to ruin it,
I was wondering, actually, between podcasting and the live radio,
I kind of like live radio because they also don't take any risks because they don't want to throw you off. In a podcast situation, they can throw a curveball because if you bomb, they can just edit it out. But on the radio, it's really easy to it's like playing wiffle ball with my 7-year-old and just hitting home runs over and over. So.
Set you up for success that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's helpful to have an idea of what to expect. They probably prep you a bit before. What's coming.
It's been surprising. The technology that they use is different for different shows. Some it's just a cell phone. Some they have a thing that you have to log into and plug a mic in, and kind of like how we do this. And then as far as the script, some do that. They'll send you, we're going to basically talk about this. And our marketing guy, Josh Beckman, is really good at communicating with them. Here's what we'd like to say, and then if I need anything, he kind of gives me some pointers. Like, here, he's the guy behind the scenes, so I don't really have to search that hard for the script is kind of there, and I just choose which thing to hit. But I have been surprised once in a while. We'll sort of agree we're going to talk about this, and it goes somewhere else, even on live radio. So I'm not always prepared for those, but nothing's been so outside that I can't handle it. So.
You're good at going with the flow like that. That I was thinking earlier this afternoon when I was asking families, just a few. We just had a few that we were asking them because we were hoping to talk to lots of folks, and so we were trying to keep it to just a few questions. But they would say something, and then I would be like, "Okay, I want to know more about that," but I'm not going to go there now because that will take us.
So you found a bunch of new podcast guests.
I do. Yes. I have a long list now, so I'm excited about that. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, just in some of the conversations with people, it will be nice to get some people that at least we've talked to on the podcast who have some amazing stories about. One mother was talking about how, which we've heard this before, but working through Kolbe with their children really helped to bring the faith to them. Even a conversion story I heard today that this Kolbe was able to play a part in that. So I mean, that always makes you feel, both happy because this is happening, but we've heard that sort of thing so many times, which I always have to I like to bring back to my mind the mothers who have said, my faith wasn't strong, and then I started teaching my child the religion courses, and it kept building, and I learned about my faith. It's like, that's a wonderful thing, and it's one of the things you wouldn't get if you had to send your child to a school or chose to not be engaged in it. And so it's like, yes, this is what we're all about here. And
that'd be one thing I'd be interested about, how that works with the online academy, because our mom has talked a lot about that from when she and I were doing the homeschool courses. And since my parents just had the one student, they were able to at various times buy 2 copies of the 9th grade, 10th grade books, and our mom would read along with me. She's spoken a lot about that. And I don't know if it would have had the same effect if she was monitoring the online thing. So I wonder, I'm sure that there's different ways that plays out with the various platforms that can benefit families.
Yeah. I think as you have, just like sending your child to maybe not to the same extent, but like sending your child to a brick and mortar school, as a parent, you're going to have to be very deliberate about that then. And I know one of the things we're talking about is providing extra help for parents. Is like, if you're a homeschooling parent, could we start making sure they have questions like questions to ask at the dinner table this week, because they're reading through this stuff. What if we gave them something like, hey, ask them about this? Because then at least maybe you give you some of those prompts to say, hey, tell me, are you reading about this right now? Tell me about that. And then, this happens for me, at least when my son starts telling me things he's reading about. It's like, wow, that sounds amazing. So wait, what happened? And then oftentimes I'll see if I can find either that book or another book that's going to tell me about the same thing and pick it up. But hopefully we'll continue to get that, even if it's not the
nice
homeschool.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great. Yeah, and I've experienced that with my kids taking the online classes in high school. Like I know I'm missing the fullness of that experience, and I think often like I want to be going. I'm going to do this myself one of these days. I'm going to end up with my own Kolbe high school experience.
That is going to happen to somebody. Somebody is going to, they had gotten a degree in something years ago, and then they homeschooled their kids, and they're like, I'm going to grad school with this background I've gotten teaching my kids. No.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Kolbe parent honorary degree.
That's what we need, right?
It's coming up.
We got to do that.
Next graduation. Yep.
Do it through the Kolbecast, do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always thought that, especially like the long term, any homeschooling is great, but sometimes I'll see a mother who's just like been homeschooling for 25 years and it's her last child, the last direct child that she's going to be working with, and it's like, these people should get some sort of trophy, statue. I don't know what, but then I realized, oh wait, it's not over yet for them though, because hopefully they'll be having grandchildren that they can or mentoring their children as a mother, helping them with the homeschooling and the different processes.
That happened today. A mom got very emotional. It was looking at her daughter on the stage, and she said, "This is really hard for us because we started homeschooling with Kolbe 20 years ago or whatever, 23 years ago, I think she said, and it was the youngest now."
Yeah.
So, man, it was, and that to me now is starting to hit me now that I have a teenager, where I'm like, wow, I can't believe 5 years and she'll be up there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've been thinking about that a lot too, like when the homeschooling chapter ends, what that is like and what the next chapter
could
looks
be a good
like.
episode right there.
I think so too.
Well, it's I think a good thing for our society today is because parenting isn't this get them to graduation and then they've got their high school diploma, out the door they go, or even if you want to push it back to college graduation if you think that's important. But that's not the end of parenting. That's just the end of, and it's harder today. Just like we talk about being a remote school, families are remote these days. It used to be you wouldn't leave your area. You'd have your grandparents and your aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews and cousins and everything. I think I was related to everybody in my county when growing up. But now people, my children aren't likely to stay in Batesville, Arkansas, where we live now. They'll head off to other bigger areas and meet people, or maybe we'll get some priests out of them. I'm not sure. But, it's harder. So as a parent, I think just like we have to be more intentional about taking advantage of these times together or making sure we're getting in front of people. I think as a family, you just have to do more of that if you're not blessed to have everybody right there.
There are elements about this that I can tell are helping me be ready for the next chapter, and then other things that, I didn't do as well at that, or I still have work to do in this area to help my childhood. Anyway, it's all part of it, I think, so yeah. What else, guys? Good?
Feel tired.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful conversing. There's also that, like, okay, we're all getting tired now.
We're all getting introverted out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sure has been great being with y'all here in Atlanta, and thanks for doing this with us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Kolbecast on your favorite podcast app so that you don't miss an episode. And let us know how we're doing by leaving a rating or a review. And as always, feel free to email us at podcast@kolbe.org.
Mary our Mother, pray for us. Saint Maximilian Kolbe, pray for us. Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam.